much to James Carlberg for your support. Thanks, James. We are bringing you live coverage here of the strikes, retaliatory strikes on Iraq and Syria, retaliating to, hold on, B-1 bombers involved in the strike per DOD official. Lara Seligman, who is with Politico, has a new comment from a DOD official, B-1 bombers involved in the strike. I'm going to change reports because we have so many reports now. I am confident in just saying that. Give me one moment here. Give me one moment here. I'm just updating the information on our title. Okay, good. U.S. military response to Iran begins. You got to update the title. Okay. Thanks for your patience, guys. Okay. Let's get you the latest updates here. So B-1 bombers involved in the strike. CENTCOM statement, breaking news, breaking news, CENTCOM statement, breaking news, breaking news. Here's the statement from CENTCOM at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, February 2nd. U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Force, Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations, centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles and unmanned air vehicle storages, and logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. Wow, there you go. Big statement from CENTCOM. Breaking news. I'm going to read this again. I'm going to read this again. At 4 p.m. EST. Hey, right when I guess the people who said it was going to happen when markets closed were right, right? The people who said it was going to happen when the markets closed for the weekend are right. At 4 p.m. Eastern time on February 2nd, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operation centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned air vehicle. I think it's supposed to be unmanned aerial vehicle storages, drone storages, and logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. Big breaking news. It doesn't say that they focused on hitting people. Seems like the facilities struck. Did they strike forces or did they just strike people? Did they just strike like it again? It doesn't really seem from this that they focused on striking people, because it does say against Iran's IRGC Quds Force and affiliated militia groups. But when you look at the targets mentioned, it doesn't say people at all. It's all this companion. I mean, unless there's people in these places, but people might have cleared out of all these areas. So there might have been people hit. But it doesn't specifically say that they were like targeting the forces. Too True says, sounds like a facility strike. Okay, guys, this is from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is they're a UK-based group that reports on stuff going on in Syria. They claim 10 members of Iranian militias killed and injured under airstrikes in Deir ez-Zor, Syria. Now, I don't know if these were this part of the strikes carried out by the U.S. 6 members of Iranian militias, at least 3 of which are non-Syrian members, were killed and 4 others were injured under anonymous airstrikes in Syria. Moreover, anonymous warplanes targeted. This looks like maybe the U.S. strikes. The warplanes carried out 4 rounds of airstrikes on positions of Iranian militias in Deir ez-Zor, 3 of which took place in Al-Mayadin and 1 in Al-Bokamal, while the scout and surveillance planes are still flying over the region. So again, this is from it's a well-respected group that reports on Syria. They're saying that 10 members of Iranian militias were killed and injured in some strikes in Syria. And they also say that scout and surveillance planes are still flying over the region. By the way, I'm assuming you can't see any of these like fighter aircraft or scout aircraft on flight radar. I'll do a quick check here, but I'm going to assume that we're not going to be seeing these U.S. Aircraft, the sensitive ones, on flight radar. I mean, here's Syria right here. There's no aircraft on flight radar 24. That's not one. That's just a civilian craft. So you're not really seeing anything there. I mean, there's some aircraft over Iraq, but I'll keep an eye out. But again, I'm also looking at what the most tracked is, and none of the most tracked. It's not like a lot of people are tracking anything over there. No. So, anyways, if I hear of anything on, I mean, there's people I follow who know way more about the flight radar stuff than me, and if I hear that they're aware of anything big going on in flight radars, I'll let you know. All right, hang on a moment here. One moment. Give me a shout. X at Lookner on X is where you can reach me. Joe Soul says, I knew they would wait until after the dignified transfer. So there were human remains of the 3 people who were killed, the 3 soldiers who were killed in the drone attack on Sunday. They were coming back today. So some of our viewers like Joe thought that the U.S. would hold off until after those remains were back. I don't know. I can't give you a definitive explanation for why the timing was what it was. Scleratissimus thinks that the strikes were being held until after the military personnel had arrived back at Dover Air Force Base. Oh, Hamdi, Vicky Thomas sent me this from Hamdi, who's with CNN. And this is similar to that Syrian Observatory article I read you. A drone attack on the this is a drone attack. A drone attack on the outskirts of the city of Al Mayadeen in northeast Syria has resulted in the death of 3 pro-Iranian militia members, with several others injured. The media activism group Euphrates Post told CNN on Friday evening. I can't confirm that report. I did show you this report from the Syrian, from SOHR, which is the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, and they claim that 10 members of Iranian militias were killed and injured under airstrikes in Deir ez-Zor, Syria. I just can't confirm these reports at the moment. Oops, what is going on? I can't confirm reports like that at the moment. Let's see here. Hang on one second. Deir ez-Zor is the largest city in eastern Syria, says Google Maps. That's over there. Let's see here. I don't have any kind of live shot to give you. I do wonder if we'll get some kind of briefing or something like that. In case you missed it, I'm going to show you the announcement from CENTCOM again. Our viewer, Paul Mufoletto, thinks this is not an overwhelming response. But it's supposed to be, remember what John Kirby said, the first thing you see will not be the last. The U.S. has repeatedly said that this is going to be a series of strikes over days, and possibly over days or weeks. Faytux News says official military statements usually mean the attacks have ended. However, this situation is special, so I don't know if CENTCOM statement means the strikes have ended. Well, again, I don't know if they've ended for now, but John Kirby explicitly said in a White House press briefing a day or two ago, explicitly said the first thing you see won't be the last. And that's also something. I forget the exact wording, but the defense secretary said something like that yesterday. So there's going to be more strikes. There's going to be more strikes because we have had that telegraphed by the U.S. government for the last several days. Jojo thinks the president will address the country maybe this evening. I haven't heard that he will. I haven't heard that he will. I don't know, but I haven't heard that. So let's just look at this again. Again, CENTCOM statement, U.S. Central Command at 4 p.m., that's 50 minutes ago, Eastern Time, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operation centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages. They've actually corrected a couple typos in this. And logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. So if they updated their post, did they edit it? Do I have to repost it again? Let's see. No, it's there. So will that be it for like a day or what? This is an unconfirmed report here. I'm not sure about this video. Stephen Nabil, who is a Middle Eastern analyst, he says that U.S. airstrike targeted a house used as a munitions and rocket storage by the militias in Al-Qaim, Iraq. Yeah, I don't know if this is legit video, but I don't know if that report is true. Let's see. I got to open up some other things here. Let me open up a couple things here. One moment. Going to check some Arabic language media too. Okay, so supposedly, this is from Omar Habib, who I follow for Iraq stuff. This is supposedly from Al-Qaim, Iraq. He says the situation in the city of Al-Qaim, it's difficult for people in the wake of American bombing of weapons stores, as the video from the city shows. Unconfirmed video from Iraq here. Is that really from tonight? From Iraq? I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, Al Hadath has a video too. And again, I don't know if this is legit. They say American bombing of the headquarters of armed factions in the Akashat area near the Iraq-Syrian border in Al-Qaim district. And then Stephen Nabil, it's the same video. He said, video showing the U.S. strikes taking place on militia locations in Al-Qaim, Iraq. I don't know if this is from tonight or not. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe not. Possibly video from Iraq from tonight. Go. So again, I can't confirm that. I just don't know. Oh, here's another one from Yasser El Uburi, who I follow for Iraq stuff. He claims that this is from Iraq too. I believe he's saying this is from Iraq. All right, maybe it is. I don't know. Hang on. I want to check Telegram too. So many things to check. Okay. Hey, I'm going to show you guys a couple. Let me show you guys a couple things from Telegram. Hang on. I got to get this on the screen. How do I do this? How do I do this here? Hold on. I'm trying to do this the right way. All right. Can you guys see this? Let me show you this again. Is this from the... This is from Hezbollah Telegram channel, Hezbollah's Islamic Resistance channel. They claim that this video is headquarters of the Anbar Operations Command of the Hashd al-Shabi Relief Forces, blah, blah. They say this is in Anbar, Iraq. Is it? I don't know. That is purportedly a video from Iraq. I don't know if that's anti-aircraft stuff being fired and something's on fire there. I can't confirm the video. Oops. Hang on a moment. Aurora Intel posted this and said this is supposedly of warehouses targeted along the Syria and Iraq border. Maybe it's from... Possibly. Yeah, this is the video. We were just showing you this video. Again, I can't confirm it. This is FJ, who I follow. It's the same video I showed you from Telegram. Supposedly, it's from Al-Qaim, Iraq. So FJ thinks what's going on here is you're seeing secondary explosions of projectiles and munitions following U.S. airstrikes on an IRGC-linked warehouse. Maybe that is what it is. I don't know. I'll play you this again. Oh, and then here's another video posted by, here's one that Aurora Intel found. Reportedly, the targeting of the Al-Sika neighborhood in Al-Qaim, Iraq.
الو خليك وياي
يا ستار يمكن صواريخ مشاجب والله لا يقعن علينا والله جاي تطاير يا ستار الله يستر الله يستر الله يستر بردا وسلاما ان شاء الله.
الو حسن خليك وياي.
All right. So you're seeing some of these videos that are going around. What is this? I'm seeing some quotes attributed to officials, but I'm not sure if they're legit. So I'm going to check on those as well. Hang on here. Give me a moment. Oh, is this Syrian television? Hey guys, I found a link to a story by Syrian television, Syria TV, which is a TV station about Syria, but it's in Istanbul, Turkey. Let me show you what they're reporting for whatever it's worth. Syria TV is a pro-opposition Syrian television network. That is from Wikipedia. So Syria TV has this. They say at least 6 Iranian militia members were killed and others were injured in an airstrike launched by American warplanes on the eastern countryside of Deir ez-Zor in Syria. Pro-Iranian pages announced that 3 people had been killed as in an initial result of an American bombing that targeted Iranian militia sites, blah, 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 before announcing the number had risen to 6 dead. I can't confirm this. So we're hearing some unconfirmed reports of casualties after these strikes. Al Jazeera is reporting a source in the Islamic resistance in Iraq, which is the umbrella group of militias supported by Iran, that the U.S. said the Islamic resistance in Iraq is responsible for the drone strike on the U.S. outpost Sunday. Basically, the U.S. called out the Islamic resistance of Iraq militia. It's a group of militia groups, basically. So Al Jazeera says a source in the Islamic resistance in Iraq told Al Jazeera that there were 6 American strikes inside Iraq and included a weapons depot. A source from Islamic resistance in Iraq also told Al Jazeera the bombing targeted sites from which missiles and I don't know if it's drones, resistance marches were launched against American bases. All right, trying to get you the latest updates here. I'm checking a bunch of different sources. We'll show you some more videos. Give me a shout on X at Lookner. In case you missed it, U.S. retaliatory strikes have begun in Iraq and Syria, retaliating for the drone strike on Sunday, which killed 3 U.S. Americans, 3 American soldiers in Jordan, and that the U.S. says was carried out by Iran-backed militant groups or militants. Oh, I have an update here from Jeff Selden. Okay, U.S. official tells VOA News the slew of strikes in Iraq and Syria were aimed at causing a major disruption in logistics for Iran's IRGC forces and its militia groups. Iran has forces in Iraq and Syria, and it supports militia groups there. The targets are critical to their supply chain, per the official, adding the strikes were not for personnel purposes. See, when I read you the CENTCOM statement, I said it sounded like these strikes were not targeting personnel. Well, that's what a U.S. official tells VOA News's Jeff Selden. The strikes were not for personnel purposes, so leaving room to escalate, I would assume. U.S. assessment on strikes ongoing, but official says they were deliberate and intentional. We hit what we intended to hit. Targets hit in the newest wave of U.S. strikes versus Iran-backed groups in Iraq, Syria, were chosen with care to minimize the risk of civilian casualties, per U.S. official. Initial early assessments not showing any civilian casualties so far. And in case you missed it, let me just read you the CENTCOM statement again. CENTCOM. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets, with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages, and logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. A quick thanks, by the way, to our new member, Elkie Booth. Thank you to Bill Fisher, our new member. Thank you, Tiffany Gribble, for your support. Lark Sporadic, Mr. Hammond, Janet Burnett, Skylark, Cucker Charlson, thank you. I will check that report, Cucker Charlson. Dolores Wilson, Stephen Reed, thank you for your support. Thanks also to, for the Facebook stars, Brian Utpatel, Diane Allworth, Athena Gunlock, Alicia Rivera, Cynthia Catherine Howard. Thank you. Also, thanks to Tander for subscribing on Twitch, and Aloha Charles for the bits on Twitch, and more TV Ickerser for the bits on Twitch, and Dominar Draco for subscribing. Thanks to Gonzalez for the gift subs on Twitch, and Kepuli Kepi for the bits. Appreciate it. Panbo, thanks for subscribing on Twitch, and thanks for all your support. All right, getting you the latest updates here. Oh, White House, President Biden released a statement. Faytux News found a statement from President Biden. Statement from President Biden. Statement from President Biden. Breaking news. We have a statement from President Biden. I thought we did. Here it is. Statement from President Biden. This past Sunday, 3 American soldiers were killed in Jordan by a drone launched by militant groups backed by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Earlier today, I attended the dignified return of these brave Americans at Dover Air Force Base, and I have spoken with each of their families. This afternoon, at my direction, U.S. military forces struck targets at facilities in Iraq and Syria that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. Our response began today. It will continue. It will continue at times and places of our choosing. The United States does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this. If you harm an American, we will respond. I want to post this here. So again, Biden said, our response began today. It will continue at times and places of our choosing. Right there. Our response began today. It will continue. It will continue at times and places of our choosing. There is the statement from President Biden. And again, let all those who might seek to do us harm know this. If you harm an American, we will respond. These are facilities that the he says the facilities attacked were those for facilities in Iraq and Syria that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. Thanks so much to DeShark for your support and Christy1432. Let's get you more updates here, and a quick thank you to Janice McConnell for your support. Thank you, Janice McConnell. Bringing you live coverage here. New video, and I can't verify this. Global Military Info posted this one and said, looks like a rocket storage facility was hit in Iraq by the U.S. So what Global Military Info is saying is when you see those things fly up, it's not like anti-aircraft fire. It's what FJ said as well. The idea would be is like some weapon storage facility was hit and maybe there's like rockets in it. And so as the facility burns, you get this ammunition like rockets that catches on fire and flies off. That's the idea. Gezo says it's missiles cooking off. It might be the same video or a different one. I couldn't tell if that was a different angle. We've seen a couple videos that are like that. I think we saw another one from farther away. But again, I can't confirm it. It seems like that's coming from, that might be legit video from Iraq. And then Intel Crab, yeah, see, this is a different one, but it might be the same place. Intel Crab says the first confirmed target of the night comes from Iraq, just outside Al Qaim. Numerous secondary explosions suggest this was an ammunition depot, perhaps a large one. That was posted by Intel Crab. I'm going to check and see what else I can find. Hang on a moment. You can write to me on X at Lookner. I'm checking some different sources here. You know, there's going to be some videos floating around that are not, that there's always, when stuff like this happens, there's videos that float around that are not legit. So I'm trying to be careful about the videos. Oh, and supposedly that the video we just saw was from Al Qaim, Iraq. I want to show you where that is. Al Qaim, Iraq is right near the Syria border. Al Qaim is an Iraqi border town. That's there. And the U.S. base that was hit with the drone on Sunday was in northeast Jordan. It was in northeast Jordan, around where my pointer is. But Al Qaim is right there in western Iraq, right near Syria. This is an Arabic language news site, Al Hurra News. Now, they just posted this. They said Al Hurra correspondent from local sources, bombing targeted sites of pro-Iranian militias in the Al Sakak neighborhood in Al Qaim district in western Iraq. Have we seen this one? I think this is another video from Al Qaim. I think this is another video of that. Again, it supposedly is some site in Al Qaim, Iraq that was hit by US and maybe a weapon storage site, and you see things flying off, maybe like rockets or missiles or whatever exploding and flying off. I don't know if we've seen this one yet. This is from this account I follow for Iraq stuff, Omar Al-Janabi. So if you look here, he says a local source confirmed this is video of a bombing that targeted, this says Hezbollah, a Hezbollah headquarters in, I don't know if it's a Hezbollah headquarters. Hezbollah is more in Lebanon, but maybe they have some kind of place they use in Iraq. I mean, they're also it's supported by Iran, Hezbollah. So I don't know. I don't know if it's Hezbollah headquarters in Al Qaim district in Iraq, western Iraq. But again, it looks like maybe this is another angle of the same location. So again, it sounds like maybe secondary explosions where things have been hit, and you keep hearing the explosions of other of weapons going off and munitions going off in that area, in that site. I'm not aware of any kind of press conference or anything that's going to happen. It is Friday, 5:20 p.m. U.S. time. See if I can get you some more reporting. Maybe we have some more reporting floating around out there. I'm going to check some of the messages too. Sorry, I know a lot of people are sending me messages. Ah. Oh, that's interesting. Tux found something from Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal article says Jordanian aircraft are slated to join in the operation and have been assigned targets. Jordan's role is unusual and is intended to demonstrate solidarity with the U.S. following the drone strike, which happened in Jordan on Sunday. That's an interesting find by Tux. Tux spotted that in the Wall Street Journal report. But again, the president's statement said that U.S. military forces were the ones who did the strike so far. That's what Biden said. And that's also what the CENTCOM statement said. So this report in the Wall Street Journal says that there may be strikes carried out by Jordanian aircraft. The U.S. began a series of airstrikes on Iran-backed militias in Syria and Iraq on Friday, hitting 7 facilities. This says 7 facilities in a bid to deter further attacks against American forces in the region. After 3 U.S. troops were killed in a deadly drone strike in Jordan on Sunday, a U.S. defense official said. The Biden administration has said the strikes could extend for days and would be coupled with economic sanctions and diplomacy that is aimed at safeguarding American forces, while not pushing the U.S. toward direct confrontation with Iran. The U.S. has signaled for days it was preparing to take action. Middle East experts say this time has likely been used by Iran and the militias to try to disperse. And again, as Tux News spotted, it says Jordanian aircraft are also slated to join in the operation and have been assigned targets. Jordan's role is unusual and is intended to demonstrate solidarity with the U.S. following the drone strike on Tower 22, an outpost in Jordan near the Syrian border. Now, I mean, again, the U.S. has already attacked targets the U.S. has attacked targets related to Iran-backed militia groups in Iraq and Syria the last couple months. And that hasn't stopped the attacks on U.S. forces. Will tonight stop the attacks? Well, remember, this is President Biden says this is just the beginning, so there's going to be more U.S. strikes. But it doesn't feel like so far what's happened so far is that different than what's happened before. Maybe it's a bit larger of an operation than what's happened before, but it's not strikes inside Iran. It's not strikes on an Iranian ship. It's apparently not strikes that even targeted personnel. As we mentioned to you, Jeff Selden from VOA News said the U.S. official tells VOA News these strikes were not for personnel purposes, and they were aimed at causing a major disruption in logistics. So if it's just this set of strikes, would that deter further attacks on U.S. forces? I don't know. Maybe it's sending a message, and I'm guessing the Biden administration doesn't want to escalate more than it has to. We'll have to see. Look, maybe the Biden administration after today will wait and see if there's any more. The Biden administration says, "Well, we're going to do more," but maybe they'll wait a couple days and see if there's any more attacks. Why do more strikes if there's no more attacks? So I don't know if maybe we'll get more strikes soon, but maybe the Biden administration will wait to see if there's any more attacks. Way too cool says, let's see. Todd N23 says it didn't stop the Houthis. No, nothing inside Iran yet. That'd be a huge deal. Nothing inside Iran yet. Let me see if I can find some other reporting for you. Sometimes you find things buried in these articles. Washington Post says the operation today appeared to mark the opening of what officials have said would be a multi-day campaign aimed at various targets close to Iran, which the Biden administration has blamed for a spiraling of militant violence since the start of Israel's war in the Gaza Strip, including a drone attack Sunday that killed 3 U.S. service members in Jordan. The Biden administration has labeled Tehran responsible for a steady drumbeat of attacks in Iraq and Syria. These strikes are an attempt to inflict greater damage on Tehran and its proxies than they suffered in previous retaliatory actions carried out by U.S. forces in recent months. But I mean, nothing I think that happened today so far is so different, it seems like, than what happened before. But we'll have to see if there's more strikes in the coming days. And look, there could be more strikes tonight for all we know. Oh, also, hey, Faytux News spotted that there's the Secretary of Defense released a statement too. Secretary of Defense Secretary of Defense Austin. Following the attack on U.S. and coalition forces in northeastern Jordan this past Sunday that killed 3 U.S. service members, at President Biden's direction, U.S. military forces today conducted strikes on 7 facilities. Hey, we have a confirmation it was 7 facilities, which included more than 85 targets. So it's 85 targets, but at 7 facilities. 7 facilities, which included more than 85 targets in Iraq and Syria that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated militias used to attack U.S. forces. This is the start of our response. This is the start of our response, it says. The president has directed additional actions to hold the IRGC and affiliated militias accountable for their attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. These will unfold at times and places of our choosing. We do not see conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else, but the president and I will not tolerate attacks on American forces. We will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our forces, and our interests. I'm just posting this. One moment, please. Let me just post this here. So again, the Secretary of Defense says that 7 facilities were hit, including more than 85 targets in Iraq and Syria. 7 facilities. And he also says, this is the start of our response. The president has directed additional actions to hold the IRGC and affiliated militias accountable for their attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. These additional actions will unfold at times and places of our choosing. All right, hang on a moment here. Hang on a moment here. Jason, so this is interesting here. Nafisa Kanavard of BBC says, this is not the first time that the U.S. has targeted IRGC Quds Force locations in Syria and Iraq. They have done it before, like when the U.S. jets targeted ammunition depots belonging to IRGC in Abu Kamal back in 2022. And Jason Brodsky, who's a Middle Eastern expert, says, yes, indeed, the U.S. also targeted IRGC facilities in October of last year airstrikes. These were likely Quds Force as well. So again, I don't see any kind of huge difference between these strikes tonight and over the last couple of months. There have been a number of strikes by the U.S. on Iranian-based militia, Iranian-backed militias, and I believe sites affiliated with Iranian forces in Iraq and Syria. Now, maybe these were bigger tonight, but is it that big of a difference between what's gone before? I don't know. But again, it's just the start, according to the Secretary of Defense and the President. It's just the start. So we'll have to see what comes after. Yeah, I didn't see this quote. Miss Wolf sent me this. I saw this before, but I got to look into this. I don't know who said this, and I didn't see it myself. B&O News says U.S. won't carry out airstrikes in Iran in response to deadly drone attack. U.S. official says. CNN. So I got to find that. I got to see if I can find the original report of that. I don't know. I didn't see the original myself. Oh, look, U.S. will not strike inside Iran, according to senior administration official. From CNN, here's the report. A senior administration official told CNN the U.S. will not strike inside Iran, only focusing on targets outside of the country. Striking inside Iran would have been a huge escalation, and officials have telegraphed this was unlikely to happen. U.S. officials have known for a few days now that the first strikes would happen tonight, the official added. The official said strikes were not coordinated with the dignified transfer. Again, I don't know if this is true. The official said that the timing of the strikes was not coordinated with the dignified transfer of the 3 U.S. service members earlier today. The timing of the strikes involved many factors, including weather conditions. So that is this report from CNN. Again, a senior administration official told the CNN the U.S. will not strike inside Iran, only focusing on targets outside of the country. Striking inside Iran would have been a huge escalation, and officials have telegraphed that this was unlikely to happen. We are bringing you more updates here. Both the president and secretary of defense say there are more strikes coming. When those will be, we don't know. Oh, hold on. Here is a report from the Syrian Human Rights Observatory, which is a UK-based group which reports on stuff going on in Iran. It's pretty respected, this group. Reports on stuff going on in Syria. So they say in the first hours of the American strikes, 18 soldiers were killed and 26 targets were destroyed in strikes at a distance of about 130 kilometers in Deir ez-Zor governorate in eastern Syria. Again, I don't know that this is true, but this is a pretty respected group, the Syrian Human Rights Observatory. Just so you can see something about them. The Syrian Human Rights Observatory is a UK-based information office whose stated aim is to document human rights abuses in Syria. It is frequently quoted by major news outlets since the beginning of the war about daily numbers of deaths from all sides of the conflict. So it's a group that reports on what's going on in Syria. They just put this out. They claim that American aircraft carried out rounds of airstrikes on sites along a length of about 80 miles from the city of Deir ez-Zor all the way to the Syrian-Iraqi border, passing through Al-Mayadin. They say during these rounds, they targeted 26 important sites for the Iranian militias. They talk about some of the places. They talk about some different sites here. The strikes resulted in the killing of 18 militia members, and they say 18 militia members were killed. Is that true? I don't know. Our sources revealed great confusion among the ranks of the pro-Iranian militias due to lack of intelligence information they have about the places expected to be targeted and the extent of the militia's readiness to absorb the size of the American strike. Fine. According to our sources, leaders of the groups loyal to Iran have taken measures to reduce human losses in the event of the expected American targeting of their positions in Syria, as they sent their leaders to Damascus and Homs, and told the leadership of Iranian militias and members of these militias to adhere to stay home and remain in their homes. Anyway, so I can't confirm that. That's some reporting from Syrian Human Rights Observatory about what possible militia people killed in Syria. Let me show you a couple videos here. Aurora Intel posted a few videos. Some other places posted them soon too as well. But in case you haven't seen some of the videos floating around, which I think these, some of the ones from Al-Qaim, there's a bunch of those. Al-Qaim Iraq. Looks like those are maybe legit. So again, this is you can see Aurora Intel says multiple rockets, munitions launching as secondaries from a targeted warehouse in Al-Qaim, Iraq, which apparently had, rockets and munitions in it. Yeah, they're a good account to follow for things like this, Aurora Intel. And let's see, I'll show you something else they posted. Here's a video. They said this is airstrikes in Abu Kamal. I assume that's Iraq, captured from Al-Qaim, Iraq, according to reports. Abu Kamal is in Syria, but Al-Qaim is right on the border. Al-Qaim is there. Yeah, so Al-Qaim is here in Iraq, and Abu Kamal is right across the border in Syria. So supposedly this is some footage from Abu Kamal. Okay, and then this is additional footage from an impact location belonging to the PMF. Sorry, and the PMF, hold on. The PMF, says Wikipedia, is an Iraq state-sponsored umbrella organization with around 230 fighters that are mostly Shia militia groups. Many of its groups trace their origins to the special groups, Iranian-sponsored Shiite groups, blah, 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 blah. So Aurora Intel says this is additional footage from impact location belonging to the PMF.
وين على الحمولي؟ على والله يا المجنين
Might be the same site as we saw in that video a couple videos ago. Lowell's thinks it's a rocket storage site. Maybe there are some rockets there. Stuff looks like it's cooking off there.
الناس هاي بيوت شنو خلي خابر صار.
If you want to rewatch those, go to Aurora Intel, at Aurora Intel. Oh, did I? And one more here. I don't know if I showed you this one. Maybe the same location as the first one where the where stuff was, you had like secondary explosions and things flying up in the air. They posted this one as well. Eric, our viewer, says, must be scary being in the area with rockets going off randomly from the storage. So we've heard about strikes happening. You know, right here, so we've heard about strikes so here's Syria and here's Iraq and there's Iran. We have heard about strikes happening in Qam, Iraq, in Al-Bukamal, Syria, and up here, where is it here? Deir ez-Zor. I think Al-Mayadeen too. You know, I think basically what the Syrian Human Rights Observatory said is they said that the strikes went from like here to here, which is about 80 miles, right? They said, this is the Syrian Human Rights Observatory, that the strikes were carried out on sites along a length of about 80 miles from the city of Deir ez-Zor all the way to the Syrian-Iraqi border, passing through Al-Mayadeen. So if you go to the map, what we're talking about here is, I'll actually draw it with a little pen here, but there's Syria and there's Iraq. So if we zoom in here, Syria, Iraq, what we get is, oops, if I can get my little pen up on the screen, can I get it here? Let's see if this works. Here's my pen thing. So we're talking about like here. There's Deir ez-Zor. Oh, you can't see it. Hold on. You'll be able to see it in a second. You'll be able to see it in a second. I apologize. You can't see it yet. I'll fix it so you can see it. There we go. There. So up on the top left, Deir ez-Zor, and then Qam, Iraq is here, and there's Al-Mayadeen. So looks like, again, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, it's about an 80-mile stretch, and it sounds like maybe from what we've been hearing that the strikes were concentrated in that area. But I can't confirm that that's where all the strikes were. All right, let's try to bring you some more updates here. So really, more strikes could happen at any time. Oh, update. Bloomberg's Jennifer Jacobs says, U.S. had clear, irrefutable evidence. Sites hit today were connected to attacks on U.S. personnel in the region. Defense Department is in early stages of battle assessment, but say the strikes were successful. Don't know if or how many militants may have been killed or wounded. That's from Jennifer Jacobs. Let me read you the Bloomberg article on this. U.S. hits Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq with retaliatory strikes, hit 85 targets at seven sites, at 7 facilities. 85 targets at 7 facilities, according to Secretary of Defense, with some 125 precision-guided munitions. early strikes designed not to target Iranian territory. Okay. At least in the first round of strikes, Biden elected not to target Iranian territory, a move that would have almost certainly provoked a counterattack and risked war with a regional adversary. U.S. officials had earlier pledged a multi-tiered response. Even so, targeting the Quds Force, which is now, they didn't target the force, they target facilities, from what I understand. Even so, targeting the Quds Force, which is responsible for the IRGC's foreign operations, marks a serious escalation in a conflict that erupted with the Hamas attack on Israel and Israeli forces' subsequent military campaign in the Gaza Strip. I don't know if it has. I read you that report before that Quds Force has been targeted previously. I mean, Bloomberg saying it's a serious escalation. I don't know that that's true. Remember, I read you this? Let's go back here. I'm going to show you a couple things here. First of all, Jason Brodsky, who's an expert on the Middle East, says the U.S. targeted Iranian IRGC forces in October 2023 airstrikes. Those were likely Quds Force as well. And Nafisa Khanavard from BBC said this is not the first time the U.S. has targeted IRGC Quds Force locations in Syria and Iraq. They have done it before, like when the U.S. jets targeted ammunition depots belonging to IRGC back in 2022. I don't know how escalatory this really is. I'm not hearing that from other analysts. Jason Brodsky, who I follow for Iran stuff, also posted this from Kasari Arabi, who is director of Iranian IRGC research at United Against Nuclear Iran. He is also a resident scholar at the Middle East Institute. He thinks U.S. strikes against Iran positions in Iraq and Syria at present appear more symbolic than practically meaningful. Biden gave the IRGC advance notice and enough time to withdraw its commanders and clear out facilities. Tonight's strikes are unlikely to significantly alter the IRGC calculus. And this was reposted by Jason Brodsky, who, again, is a Middle East expert I follow for Israel, Iran stuff. So this one Middle Eastern expert, Kasra Arabi, does not think at least the strikes tonight so far that we've heard about are really going to significantly affect what the Iran does. We'll have to see. But I disagree with the assessment from Bloomberg that this is some kind of significant escalation so far. I'm not hearing that elsewhere. I'm not obviously seeing why it is. Oh, I'm seeing some new reporting about a statement from, I don't know, I didn't see this actually happen, but Barak Ravid reports American General Douglas Sims in a press briefing, maybe it's off-camera press briefing. The timing of the attack was determined according to the weather conditions in Iraq and Syria. Today, the weather was suitable and therefore the attack took place. Today, we believe that we hit exactly what we wanted to hit. A proxy group is a group that does the bidding of another group. So Iranian proxies are groups that do what Iran wants, but they're not Iranian. Okay, I have an update from John Kirby. Look, Hamdi with CNN says The U.S. struck 3 facilities in Iraq and 4 in Syria during the counterattack Friday, which lasted around 30 minutes, according to the White House. We believe the strikes were successful, says NSC spokesman John Kirby. So 7 facilities. 7 facilities. Again, I have a hard time thinking that 7 facilities, when you didn't target personnel and they had days and days to know something was coming, I have a hard time believing that this is going to, on its own, significantly affect what Iran does. Now, maybe the U.S. has sent messages to Iran saying more is going to come if you do more. I mean, sort of seems like so far it's more about the symbolism. But there may be, look, Biden and Secretary of Defense Austin say there's more coming. Kabuki AI says it's all theater. No, it was 85 targets in 7 facilities. You can have multiple targets in one facility. Like if the facility is a collection of buildings, you could have various targets at that facility, for example. Yeah, I'm seeing this reported like everywhere now. Caitlin Collins, CNN. John Kirby says the White House believes the strikes against the facilities in Iraq and the 3 facilities in Iraq and 4 in Syria were successful. The whole response lasted about 30 minutes. And U.S. military aircraft are now out of harm's way. So 7 facilities. Also, as Faytux News posted this from Jake Epstein, defense reporter, Business Insider, John Kirby also says retaliation will not end tonight. So the U.S. government is saying there are definitely going to be more strikes to come. Will those strikes be later today? How long until the next batch of strikes? That I can't tell you. And something else to watch for is, now that these strikes have happened, are we going to hear any more reports on attacks on U.S. forces? Because that would be a big deal if you now heard of another attack on U.S. forces, like a drone attack or a rocket attack or whatever. Scleratissimus says many in the chat call today's strikes a weak response. I did ask in chat what they wanted to happen. So, I mean, other options that have been talked about, we've already talked about this on this stream. Obviously, it would be certainly potentially escalatory, but strikes inside Iran, also strikes on, say, Iranian ships, also personnel-directed strikes. These apparently were strikes. They look like they were directed on facilities. They were not specifically targeting personnel. I would think if you had strikes targeting Iranian personnel explicitly, that could be seen as escalatory. So those are several other more escalatory steps, or just a lot more of them, but nothing in Iran. No Iranian ships, not aware that this is a personnel target. That's various things that would be seen as more escalatory. As an example, hey, we're going to continue here and bring you more updates and I want to take some more of your comments and show you more updates here. What I want to do right this second, real quick. We are bringing you live coverage of the U.S. strikes on Iran and Iraq in response to the Iranian-backed attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East. We continue to bring you live coverage here. Oops, didn't want to do that. Okay, what I need really quick is I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break. I'm coming right back, and we're going to continue our live updates and live coverage and read your comments in 2 minutes. I'll be right back. All right, we are back live bringing you updates. In case you missed it, the U.S. has carried out strikes on 7 facilities in Iraq and Syria in the beginning, what they say is the beginning of their retaliation against Iranian and Iran-backed forces for attacks on U.S. forces, U.S. and coalition forces, including a drone attack on Sunday in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. troops and injured dozens. So 7 facilities were attacked with 85 targets at those facilities and were struck by more than 125 precision munitions. President Biden says that more strikes are coming. As I showed you earlier, he said, President Biden said that This afternoon, at my direction, U.S. military forces struck targets at facilities in Iraq and Syria that the IRGC and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. Our response began today. It will continue at times in places of our choosing. The United States did not see conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else. But all those who might seek to do us harm know this: if you harm an American, we will respond. And then the Secretary of Defense also released a statement saying this was just the beginning. Secretary of Defense Austin said, this is the start of our response. The president has directed additional actions to hold IRGC and the IRGC and affiliated militias accountable for their attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. These will unfold at times and places of our choosing. Our viewer, Deverantum, thinks that the U.S. is going to strike more abandoned facilities. I can't say whether the facilities today were abandoned or not. We don't, it's not, there's reporting. One report from a group that reports on Syria claims that, what did they say? Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said, oh, see, whenever I say Syria, it activates my Siri. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights claims 13 members of Iran-backed groups were killed in Dai Ezor countryside. Is that true? I don't know. Yeah, they say 18 people were killed. They claim that that 18 militia members were killed in these U.S. strikes. I can't confirm that. Oh, hold on. Are there new explosions now, guys? Al Jazeera just reported Syrian news agency explosions sounded in Deir ez-Zor and a partial power outage as a result of American aggression on several sites. Or is that from before? That was just posted. That was just posted by Al Jazeera on Telegram. They just posted that right now. So is that new? Or is it just old, but they're just posting it now? New update. Oh, we're getting reports of new explosions. Guys, new report of explosions right here. New report right now. New from Al Jazeera. Urgent. Syrian news agency. Explosions sounded in Deir ez-Zor and partial power outage as a result of American aggression on several sites. Possibly new strikes. And then I also see a report right here. Look at this. Al-Mayadeen correspondent in Damascus, a new American raid. We're hearing reports of new raids. Look, Al-Mayadeen correspondent in Damascus, a new American raid targets the Harabesh neighborhood at the eastern entrance to Deir ez-Zor. So we're hearing reports right now of possible new strikes. Possible new strikes going on. I can't confirm these reports, but I've just showed you two new reports of strikes. Are there new strikes going on? That I don't know. But I am seeing, I showed you those two reports. Maybe it'll turn out that there aren't new strikes. But I just showed you from Al Mayadeen and Al Jazeera reported new strikes. Waiting to get more on that. Again, this is Al Mayadeen. It's an Arabic language news outlet with 1.1 million followers. They say a new American raid targets the Harabesh neighborhood at the eastern entrance to Deir ez-Zor. And that's in eastern Syria. There's already been strikes in Deir ez-Zor area. But that was just posted 3 minutes ago. I am looking to see if there's any other reports of new strikes, unconfirmed reports right now of new strikes. Nothing else so far. As soon as I hear anything else on that, I'll let you know. So, are there new strikes? I just don't know right now. I just don't know. Idris Ali, who is with Reuters, says, while it is unclear if any people, hold on. He says, while it is unclear if any people were killed in the U.S. strikes today, the Pentagon says the strikes were taken knowing there would be likely casualties amongst those in the facilities hit. And haven't heard anything more after a couple reports claiming new strikes. See if we hear anything more on this. Nope, nothing yet. There's a video floating around, and I'm not going to show it to you, and I've seen it posted a couple places, that claims to show like severely injured militia fighters being evacuated. But I don't know if that's legit. But I've seen it a couple places. I can't show it on the air. Again, about 10 minutes ago, Al Jazeera and Al Mayadeen reported some new strikes in Syria, but we don't know if that's actually happening. All right, let me know what you're hearing at Lookner on X as I try to get you more information. Deshark mentioned that, what is this? I don't know about this. This sounds iffy to me because I've heard nothing else about this. 37 minutes ago, 37 minutes ago, Sky News said reports of fire at U.S. base after Iran-backed militia retaliates. Now, this is 37 minutes ago, and I've heard no other reports about this. So this is sounding not that likely to me. Sky News said an Iran-backed militia has reportedly retaliated against U.S. strikes by attacking two bases, U.S. bases in northeast Syria, says international correspondent John Sparks. There are reports of a fire at one of these bases, he adds. I haven't seen this report anywhere else. And again, this is from 38 minutes ago. So, I mean, I'll certainly let you know if I hear it. It'd be a big story if it happened. But given that it's been almost 40 minutes since he posted this and nobody else is posting it, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, and we'll see if I hear it anywhere else, I'll let you know. But that's the kind of thing where you'll see multiple places if it really happens. So I'm checking some of the things people are sending me. Oksana Harris asked about targets versus facilities. Yes. So there's a facility and a target. So we've heard from the U.S., from the Secretary of Defense, that 7 facilities were attacked and there were 85 targets. So a facility could be maybe there's some camp that a militia, that an Iran-backed militia uses. It's a facility. Maybe there's 10 buildings and 3 areas where they train people at the camp. So there might be lots of individual places in that camp that you would want to target. So that you might target 20 different areas in that facility. So that would be 20 targets in one facility. Now, I don't know that any place they targeted was a camp, but you know, it's a target would be a more specific site, whereas a facility could be a collection of buildings, could be a place a mile wide or a half mile wide, or a couple city blocks that, or it could be it could be a storage facility with 5 different warehouses. So that's the way to think about. From what I understand, that's what I think the difference is between facilities and specific targets. They said there were 7 facilities targeted and 85 targets. Just checking some of these other things people have sent me. Hang on one moment here. All right, let's see if we have any more updates here. By the way, haven't heard anything more about additional strikes. We heard a couple of reports, unconfirmed reports, like 15 minutes ago, but nothing more yet. Al Jazeera says Director of U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations says there is no information about attacks against U.S. forces since the raids we launched today. Oops. Here it is right here from Al Jazeera. Director of U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations, there is no information about attacks against our forces since the raids were launched today. Will there be more strikes tonight? There's going to be more strikes at some point, say the U.S., including the president. But will there be more tonight? That I can't tell you. So here is some reporting from this outlet, Dire Azor 24. Now, I can't confirm it. They cover Dire Azor 24 is a site that covers Syrian news. You can see it says Dire Azor 24 independent news platform delivers the news of the community in Syria and diaspora. So this is what they said. I can't confirm this. I'm going to show you some of what they said. Dire Azor reveals the targets of recent U.S. retaliatory strikes in Dire Azor province in Syria, which is one of the places that was targeted. The targets of the airstrikes are as follows. Airstrikes hit Iranian militia sites in this area and a militia site in this area. An airstrike targeted Syrian-Iraqi border positions near the PMF crossing in this area. An airstrike targeted a weapon vehicle that had crossed through the PMF crossing in al-Bukamal countryside. An airstrike targeted a weapons depot of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard militia in this area in Al-Mayadeen. An airstrike hit a villa and the headquarters of the Abu Abbas Regiment militia affiliated with Iranian Revolutionary Guard militia in the city of Al-Mayadeen. Some security members who operate at the headquarters were wounded. An airstrike targeted the security square of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard militia in this part of Al-Mayadeen, leaving some local members wounded. An airstrike targeted this headquarters on the outskirts of the city of Al-Mayadeen, focusing on the personnel dormitory in the main gate headquarters. An airstrike targeted Iranian militia headquarters in the city of Al-Mayadeen. It targeted the Iranian militia's wireless communications network and thermal cameras, knocking them out of commission. An airstrike targeted the radar point on the mountain overlooking the airport from the Harabesh neighborhood. An airstrike targeted a military warehouse in the city of Dire Azor. Airstrikes targeted military warehouses west of Dire Azor, causing strong explosions and fire. The bombing was followed by a dispatch of ambulances from Dire Azor towards the warehouses. The number of dead and wounded among the Iranian militias remains inaccurate, and the series of airstrikes were followed by complete calm and military security patrols separating the city of Al-Bukamal from its countryside through checkpoints to prevent any security breach. Okay, anyways, so that's unconfirmed. It certainly sounds plausible that those are some of the targets hit. I can't confirm it. That's a site that's translated into English. That is a site that reports on Syria stuff. So sounds plausible to me that those would be the type of sites hit. I can't confirm that, but just wanted to read that for you from Dire Azor 24. Thanks so much to our moderators who are here while we bring you live coverage of the beginning of the U.S. Response to Iran strikes in Iraq and Syria. Maybe we'll show you some of the video again that we have been seeing coming out from these strikes. Let me say a quick thanks to our moderators. Thanks so much to Sarah55 and RJ and Rusty G over there on YouTube. Let's see here. Ruth Kafasi has been there moderating. Thank you so much, Ruth. And also thanks to our Twitch moderators, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, I Got That Fire, Papa Bear, Sharon C54, and Surly Dev. Thank you. On Facebook, Kay Lowry Body moderating, Summer Rosenberger, Valerie Gale Griffin. Thanks so much for moderating over there, Christina Neal. Thanks to all of our mods. Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X, and I do owe a couple thank yous that I want to say. Hang on one moment here. Thanks so much for the Facebook stars, Margaret Martin, Eve Richards, Ronald Egnor, who's also one of our moderators, and Margaret Riley. Thanks, Margaret and Ronald, for moderating and for the Facebook stars, and Kay Body for moderating in the Facebook stars, and Lynn Powell as well. Thanks for the Facebook stars, Lynn Powell, and Alicia Rivera. I think I said before, thank you. And also, thanks for your support, Just Me and Anna, and Tony Leone and Joe. Any response from Iranian government or others? I have not heard a response from the Iranian government yet. I'll let you know if I hear one, Joe. Thanks. Thanks to Shark and Ruth Krafasi for your support. Occam's Razor, thank you. Marissa Pugliese, Mark Barnes, thanks so much. Grimace. Very generous of you, Grimace, with the memberships. Thanks, Grimace, for your support. Baby Blue Sky. What happens if more attacks happen after this? More retaliation from the U.S.? Yeah, I mean, if there's like an attack on U.S. troops, well, look, if there's another attempted attack on U.S. troops and like it's a drone attack and the drones get shot down, I don't know if that's going to change the U.S. plans. I think a big question would be if there's more attacks on the U.S. Because this hasn't all taken place yet. Biden and President Biden said this is the beginning. There's going to be more. But if there's another attack on U.S. forces that kill U.S. forces, obviously that might change what the U.S. does. And also, even once the U.S. finishes these strikes, this set of strikes, if attempted attacks continue happening, even if they're unsuccessful, will there be more strikes? That I can't tell you. Thanks to Christy 1432, Wake Up, Elka Booth, Ethan Bolin. Appreciate your support for the channel. All right, let's try to get you some more updates here. Nothing more about additional strikes. There were a couple reports about a half an hour ago suggesting maybe there were additional strikes going on in Syria, but we haven't heard anything more about that. I haven't heard anything more about that. Now, this is, hold on a second here. A Palestinian news outlet, Quds News Network, I don't know how reliable this is. They're claiming that 2 civilians were killed in the strikes. Hold on here. Let me pull this up. Quds News Network is claiming that 2 civilians died in a preliminary toll of the American aggression on the cities of Al-Qaim and Al-Shakat in Iraq. Is that true? I can't tell you that right now. I just don't know. case you missed it, just to show you a couple videos that have been floating around that are apparently from tonight. You can see Intel Crab posted this one. It says, he says this is the first confirmed target of the night in Iraq, just outside Al-Qaim, which is on the border with Syria. Numerous secondary explosions suggest this was an ammunition depot, perhaps a large one. So that's not anti-aircraft fire going up in the sky. That would be, say, for example, could be a rocket that was at this, if it's a storage facility and a rocket explodes, it just, goes up in the air or something like that. There's that. And then Aurora Intel posted some videos like they said that this is additional footage, possibly from the same location as that last video. Then this is purportedly from Abu Kamal, which is across the border in Syria from Al-Qaim, Iraq. This is reportedly video taken in Al-Qaim of airstrikes in Abu Kamal, also posted by Aurora Intel. So I can't verify these videos, but Aurora Intel and Intel Crab, they really take care to try to only post videos they think are legit. So they are reliable. They're not going to post stuff before they've looked into it, and they're pretty confident that the video is legit. One more here posted by Aurora Intel. They say additional footage from an impact location belonging to the PMF. As I mentioned, PMF is, I believe, a militia group. The PMF, Popular Mobilization Forces. It's an Iraqi state-sponsored umbrella organization composed of 67 armed factions. Many of its main militias trace their origins to the special groups, Iranian-sponsored Shiite groups. It has some component militias which pledge allegiance to Iran and are considered terrorist groups by some states. So this is additional footage from an impact location belonging to the PMF, says Aurora Intel.
شنو؟ قناة شنو؟ شنو يا جماعة؟ الطيارة تضرب فأنت ما تقصف الطيارة. والله شنو هذا القصف؟ ها وين؟ على الحمولي؟ على الحمولي. والله يا
Our viewer, Jimmy Anderson, thinks they had a week's warning. All the places they hit were abandoned. Thanks to Moon's Family Fishing for watching. Zach W says most of these videos will have been post initial impact. Clearly, most of the sites hit we don't have videos of. Most of it, I mean, there was 85 targets. What did CENTCOM say? 85 targets and 125 precision munitions. So we haven't seen 85 videos. CENTCOM said 85 targets and more than 85 targets, more than 125 precision munitions. Here's a little more of that video from Aurora Intel.
لا اله الا الله. هسه الناس هاي بيوت شنو خلي خابر ثار. اذا السلام.
Both of those accounts worth following: Intel Crab and Aurora Intel. Oh, this is interesting. This is about a Democratic Senator, Mark Warner. Lucas Tomlinson, who's with Fox News, says Democratic Senator Mark Warner tells Brett Baer the U.S. military needs to increase the size and volume of strikes against Iran's rebel army, the Houthis in Yemen, focusing attacks on the Houthis' command and control. So the Houthis in Yemen are an Iranian-supported group. They have been attacking shipping in the Red Sea. These retaliatory strikes are not really supposed to be about the Houthis. They're supposed to be about the response to Iran-backed groups attacking U.S. forces and coalition forces in Iraq and Syria and Jordan. But it's interesting that this report is coming out that Mark Warner, a Democrat, says to Fox News that the U.S. needs to increase the size and volume of strikes against Iran's rebel army. He means the Houthis in Yemen, focusing on the Houthis' command and control, because there have been a bunch of U.S. strikes on the Houthis, on like Houthi launch sites and Houthi drones and missiles, and the Houthis keep, that hasn't stopped Houthis from carrying out attacks on shipping in the Red Sea and launching missiles, for example, at U.S. ships. So that's interesting. Let me check for some more updates. NBC News says U.S. waited for favorable weather for airstrikes. Official says the U.S. was waiting on favorable weather to hit Iran-backed militia targets in Iraq and Syria in retaliation for a drone attack that killed 3 U.S. service members, officials said. This was designed around the weather when we had our best opportunity, said John Kirby. Good weather presented itself today. As a result, this took place. Also, U.S. strike in Iraq targeted weapons warehouse sites used by Iran-linked militia. Remember, sites in Iraq and Syria were both targeted, 7 sites, 7 facilities. U.S. airstrikes targeted a weapons warehouse in Iraq, as well as 3 houses used by an Iran-aligned militia organization. An Iraqi security official told NBC News. The 3 houses in Anbar province in western Iraq were used by members of Kataib Hezbollah, an Iran-linked militia group that has been sanctioned by the U.S. government. The security official spoke to NBC News on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to comment to the news media. That's interesting. The U.S. had said that Kataib Hezbollah, that the drone attack in Jordan had something like had the hallmarks of Kataib Hezbollah. U.S. strikes targeted 3 houses in western Iraq used by members of Kataib Hezbollah. An Iraqi security official told NBC News. How about that? I'm going to post that. That sounds like it's targeting personnel. The U.S. didn't really, the CENTCOM announcement didn't mention targeting personnel. That sort of sounds like, but who knows what they were using the houses for? They could have been using the houses to store weapons or something like that. Maybe the houses, maybe there was nobody in the houses. That's interesting. Oh, here's a statement from the Iraqi army, NBC News. Now, I don't know, maybe the Iraqi army isn't that upset about it, but they need to do this for domestic purposes. I don't know. Iraqi army blasts U.S. strikes as violation of sovereignty. The Iraqi army condemned the U.S. airstrikes against Iran-backed militias in Iraqi border areas, calling the air assault a violation of Iraqi sovereignty and a threat that will drag Iraq and the region into unforeseen consequences. Yahya Rasul Abdullah, a spokesman for the commander-in-chief of the Iraqi armed forces, said the strikes come at a time when Iraq is striving to ensure the stability of the region. By the way, John Kirby is also saying this is just the first set of responses. BBC News says National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the strikes are just the first set of responses. He says there has been no communications with Iran since the attack that killed our 3 soldiers in Jordan, he says, referring to the attack by an Iran-backed militia group on Sunday. He says the targets hit today were selected to avoid civilian casualties, and based on clear, irrefutable evidence, they were connected to attacks on U.S. personnel in the region. He wouldn't comment on any timings or locations of future operations. Hey, look at this from BBC analysis. Iraqi official says if you know you are a target, you simply disappear. This is from BBC. For days, American officials had been telegraphing that retaliatory strikes would come after Sunday's deadly attack on a base in Jordan. This marks an escalation of the violence in the Middle East, although U.S. authorities insist they do not want to trigger a wider war in the region. American officials have suggested the U.S. response will be carried out over several days and hit Iranian personnel and interests in Iraq and Syria. As expected, infrastructure and weapons were the initial targets. With the element of surprise gone, top leaders would have certainly left their positions, which could have been part of the U.S. strategy to limit casualties and, as a result, reduce tensions. If you know you're a target, you simply disappear, an Iraqi official told me. It is not clear how or if Iran or the groups it supports will respond. Valor thinks it's a weak response. Well, again, there's supposedly more coming. The president, the Secretary of Defense, and others have said there is more coming. Al Jazeera says, Iranian sources to Al Jazeera, the American bombing is an explicit and declared aggression against, my guess is that means Syria and Iraq, and affects regional stability. Al Jazeera reports, Iranian sources told Al Jazeera there are no bases for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or Quds Force in the areas that were subjected to American bombing in Syria. Sharq Breaking News, which is a Arabic language news outlet, says the Syrian government media reports there is a complete power outage in the city of Deir ez-Zor region. Deir ez-Zor region, which I assume includes the Deir ez-Zor city. There were some strikes there that were carried out as part of these strikes by the U.S. See if I can find you that at all. Hang on one moment here. Hey guys, look, I'm going to show you some reporting from Syrian State News. If I can. This isn't really that much. This is an article from Sana'a, Syrian State News Agency, that says Iraq confirms the American aggression against the city of Al-Qaim is a violation of its sovereignty and a serious threat to the region. We read this quote already, I think. I wonder if Sana'a has anything on Telegram here. Let's see here. All right, let me know what you're hearing at Lookner on X. I just saw an update here. It says, hey guys, I have an update for you. Let me show you an update. Hang on. I am going to show you an update. What I need to do is do this. Give me one moment here so I can actually show you this. One moment, and I'll show you what the update. I just got to do something real quick here so I can show you. Put that over there. Telegram. Okay, here we go. This is from Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera on Telegram. Look at the bottom there. Iraqi security sources say 3 soldiers and 2 civilians were killed and 15 injured by the American bombing of the headquarters of the Popular Mobilization Forces in Western Iraq. So Popular Mobilization Forces would be a collection of militia groups, some who are, from my understanding, support Iran. So that is unconfirmed, but it says Iraqi security sources say 3 soldiers and 2 civilians were killed and 15 injured by the American bombing of the headquarters of the Popular Mobilization Forces in Western Iraq. So there's unconfirmed reports of casualties from these strikes in both Syria and Iraq. That is from Al Jazeera. Jennifer Griffin with Fox reports, U.S. Navy was not involved in tonight's airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, U.S. official tells me. U.S. warplanes carried out the attacks using 2 B-1B bombers that flew without stopping from the U.S. and refueled in midair along the way. That's a long flight. That is a long flight. How about that, guys? Mansoura thinks it's a 30-hour flight. I don't know how long the flight would be. But I mean, roughly, I just did this New York to Iraq. I mean, New York to Iraq is roughly 6,000 miles, according to Google. And B-1B bomber, how fast does that go? Several hundred miles an hour? Oh, B-1B bomber goes about 950 miles an hour. And that's the maximum speed. I don't know what speed it was traveling at, though. Maybe it wasn't going that fast. This says a B-1B in flight. I mean, if it's roughly 7,000 miles, if it was going 500 miles an hour, 6,000 miles would be 12 hours. That's one way. I don't know how fast it was going in its regular speed. B-1B Lancer. That's from the Air Force. B-1B Lancer bomber. Carrying the largest conventional payload of both guided and unguided weapons in the U.S. in the Air Force inventory. The multi-mission B-1 is the backbone of America's long-range bomber force. It can rapidly deliver massive quantities of precision and non-precision weapons against any adversary anywhere in the world at any time, says the Air Force. How about that? B-1B Lancer. Blah, 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 blah. Speed 900 plus miles per hour. Maybe, if it was 900 miles an hour, could go 6,300 miles in 7 hours. One of our viewers thinks that, Monty says 647 miles an hour cruise speed. Yeah, I don't know. So anyways, you can look it up on the Air Force if you want. Oh, there's some video. Oh, look, there's video from the Air Force of the B-1B bomber. Anyways, showing you some more video here. This is from the Air Force website. Truckee 1117 on X says Mach 1.2. So I'm showing you this footage of the B-1B bomber. Why? Because again, Jennifer Griffin said, U.S. Navy was not involved in tonight's airstrikes in Iraq and Syria. U.S. official tells me U.S. warplanes carried out the attacks, including 2 B-1B bombers that flew without stopping from the U.S., refueled in midair along the way. Greg Pondell says the B-1 bomber is huge inside and out. I don't know where those took off from. Oh, hold on, guys. Look. Hold on a second. Oh, no, sorry. I thought I had an update, but that wasn't an update. But I do want to check the War Zone. Do they have anything out? The War Zone's a good military news site. Let's see what they have to say. The War Zone. Over 85 targets hit in U.S. retaliation strikes against Iran proxies, IRGC. Okay. The attacks are the first of many expected to take place. The strikes were carried out in part by U.S. Air Force B-1B bombers. Politico had that report too, as well as Fox News. Okay, the War Zone says U.S. forces have carried out previous attacks against Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria, but nothing like on this scale. In anticipation of these attacks, Iran placed all armed forces on the highest alert, activated surface-to-air defense missile systems, and positioned ballistic missiles along the border with Iraq, according to 3 Iranians familiar with the planning, a current official and former one, the New York Times reported Thursday. As we reported on Thursday, the War Zone says, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps personnel and Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria began to scatter as news leaked about strikes and retaliation for the 3 Americans killed in the drone attack on Sunday. Anyways, that's from the War Zone. That's a good site, a good military news site, the War Zone. Hey, thanks so much to Harper Ann for your support, and Donna Smith, and Janet Burnett, and John B., and Wilby, and Blue Ridger 28, and Dolores Wilson, thank you. Also, thanks to, Solicious on Twitch. Hey, that's very kind of you, Solicious. Thank you. Appreciate it. Who says loss of any U.S. service personnel is tragic. Thank you, Retta Pretro, for subscribing on Twitch, and Bearded Savith for subscribing, and Teacher Diana for subscribing, and Tander62 for subscribing, and Aloha Charles for the bits. Jim Murphy says, did the B-1 bombers return to the U.S. or to a European based, that I don't know. Jennifer Griffin says some of the says at least 2 B-1 bombers flew all the way from the U.S.
Test.
Thanks also, Austin, for your support as well. I just have a hard time thinking that these strikes themselves are going to just change what Iran is doing.
Okay, we're going to. There we go. All right, everybody. This is. Let's turn these down here a little bit. Thanks for joining in tonight. We are live because of what's going on this afternoon, 4:00 Eastern time. By the way, my name is Mike Covert with Beaufort County's House of Cards, and with BigPatriotRadio.com. That's right. That is BigPatriotRadio.com. Glad to have you here with us on YouTube. So this afternoon at 4:00, around that time, the United States began its response in launching attacks from the troops that were killed. 3 service people, American service members, were killed at Tower 22 back on Sunday, I believe it was. And of course, over the last several days, what is that, 5 days now, we being the U.S. government, has been, excuse me, telegraphing to everyone what exactly we're going to do. We gave them plenty of time to, get out of the way, which is just amazing. It's absolutely amazing that that we do that. But when you have people behind or in charge, rather, such as Joe and the Ho, this is what you get. This is what you get. So anyway, we're going to go over a few as we're going to post up other folks that are broadcasting as we go along. But this is coming in from Al Jazeera tonight. The United States military has launched dozens of airstrikes against targets in Syria and Iraq in the first retaliation for a drone attack that killed 3 soldiers at a remote U.S. base in Jordan. And remember, that is on the board, almost literally on the border of Jordan and Syria, called Tower 22. Those 3 U.S. service members all happen to be from Georgia. One happens to be from just across the river here in Savannah. Quote, "At my direction, U.S. military forces struck targets at facilities in Iraq and Syria that the IRGC and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces." That quote from U.S. President Joe Biden, referring to the IRGC as Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. He added that our response began today. It will continue at times in places of our choosing. The United States Central Command, you'll hear us refer to that as CENTCOM, said its military forces struck more than 85 targets in the 2 countries, Syria and Iraq, with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. Now, last night on our podcast and over the last several weeks, we've been talking about and giving people through the program that I use called Skyglass, troop movement, plane movement, and we've seen a progression of C-130s, C-17s, but more importantly for the theater was the movement, the increase in movement of the KC-135s and other refuelers. There was an immense amount of those within the last 24 to 48 hours, somewhere in there. We saw for a while until they turn off their transponder. The B-2 bombers, the B-1 Lancers, head over across the pond from the United States. So it was, a couple things with that. When you have all these refuelers in the air, which there have been a lot of refuelers, that is indicative of fighter planes. Fighter planes have to refuel in the air. I mean, that's part of their gig. They don't go up and down, up and down. They refuel in the air. So when you see a lot of those refuelers, there's a lot of military jets, fighter jets. Fighter jets they do not come up on software such as Skyglass or Flight Aware or Flight Radar, things of that nature. They don't have a transponder that picks that up for obvious reasons. The other thing we noticed was all those flights while over the United States, for the most part, kept their transponders on. Once they got out over the Atlantic Ocean, they would turn them off. We noticed many, not all, but many, when over Europe and the Mediterranean, they would turn the transponder back on. And as they got closer to the Middle East or North Africa, the transponders would go back off. Again, for obvious reasons. The Al Jazeera article goes on to say that those 85 targets that CENTCOM said that were attacked says that the airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. 85 targets, 125 munitions. CENTCOM said the facilities that were struck included command and control operations centers, intelligence centers, weapons storage sites, and other facilities connected to the militias or to the IRGC's famous Quds Force. That is the Guard's expeditionary unit that handles Tehran's relationship and arming of regional groups. That came out shortly after, about an hour after those strikes began this afternoon. And here on the East Coast, we are 8.5 hours time difference between here and Tehran. Iraq and Syria, 7.5 hours. So when this strike took place at 4 o'clock, basically in the afternoon, East Coast time, it was 12:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning, Saturday in Iraq, and of course 11:30 in Syria. Currently is 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, 3:30 or so in the morning there in Iraq. Let's take a look here and see what else we have. Scanning. Let's see. We're going to stay on Al Jazeera. This is going to give us a good look from the ground, if you will. Al Jazeera's headquarters is in Doha, Qatar. So they're going to have a more Arab spin. The Israeli-Gaza war has been almost all, if not all, spun in favor of the Palestinians or Hamas, not Israel, coming through Al Jazeera. Completely expected. Let's see here. U.S. Central Command says it hit 85 Kataib Hezbollah targets in Syria and Iraq. So those 85 targets were of the Kataib Hezbollah in Syria and Iraq. Officials in Iraq have condemned the U.S. attacks. Tehran has not commented officially, and this came out 3 minutes ago. That's according to Al Jazeera's correspondent in the Iranian capital. Let's see here. I'm going to pull up while we're doing this. Let's see if we have any video from, we'll choose Syria first. And any of the video that we show more than likely is not going to be confirmed yet. Why is that? Well, because the United States is still doing assessments, if you will. So let's go ahead and let's share our screen here, and we're going to pull up. This is according to the tweet. What do they call it now? X? Is this a anyway? They're saying this is from this is inside Syria. Earlier, this is not confirmed. That is not a confirmed. What was that? Not video. Here is another video from inside the Al Qaim area, some railway targets. Take a look at this in Syria. Again, this is not confirmed by anyone that I could give you account for, but they are coming in. Let's also. This is supposedly from inside Syria.
شنو؟ تعرف شنو؟ شنو انت على الطوارئ تضرب انت ما تقصف الطيارة. والله شنو هذا القصف؟ ها وين على الحمولي؟ على الحمولي. والله يا حساب والله
ايوه جنين قام يضرب.
لا اله الا الله.
Again, that is inside Syria. Says it's from earlier today. Can't swear to it, but there are several places that are bringing in the same pictures. You see here on your screen. This is again, according to the Mossad commentary. This is from U.S. bombing in Syria. Let's see here. Oops, wrong one. And let's go down. See if there's any other videos. I believe we saw that one. All of these appear to be the same. All right, so we will back out of that one, and let me try to pull up. And now remember, I don't know, was it yesterday or day before? We saw John Kirby up at the Pentagon had said, what you see first is not what's going to be lasting, something to that effect. So, what I take about that is, okay, well, this right here is the beginning, and which is a good thing to mention is that what are these targets? Well, from reports that I saw before I came on the air personally, these 85 sites were logistics or command operations center, which makes sense. If you take out the logistics command and control operations. All of a sudden they can't talk to each other. Their communication level is hopefully less than um, hold on one second here. Okay, just had to make a check on something. Um, anyway, you want to take out the command and control logistics, any communications. They're going to want to take those out, and then continue from there. It's military strategy. Unfortunately, why our current administration feels like they have to announce this to everybody. There are some things that you just need to shut the hell up about. Take care of business and then report from it. I remember the first Gulf War. Yeah, in the second, we had embedded reporters and all that, which was awesome. But I don't remember, us going out there making a statement. Okay, this is what we're going to do. It, you know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, let's see here. Let's go back. Taking a look at some information coming out of Iraq. One of the things actually that I don't remember where I heard this. One of the channels, not actually, I just don't remember where. But the other day was talking about the weather. I hadn't really thought about that. But the weather, and let's share this screen here. So the weather that you see now, right now in Tehran, it is 32 degrees, high of 44 tomorrow and low of 31. It has been cold. It's been snowing there for the last 2 or 3 days or more. And they've had a ton of snow. So apparently, and it makes sense. I didn't think about it, but it makes sense that with all, snow or sand for that matter, but snow, and extremely cold temperatures, it would have made, it would have made things a little bit tougher for our military. Why make it hard? I understand that. I get that. But it is cold there. So that's a little bit of look at like what's going on inside temperature wise in Iran. Actually, in Syria, it should be a tick colder. Close to it, 41 degrees, just a little bit warmer in Syria. So there you go. We will it's 41 degrees there in Damascus at the moment. All right, we will keep looking here. We're gonna bring up we're gonna change something here. See if we can't bring one of the channels that I really I enjoy watching is a lot of good stuff and a little bit of I don't know how to say it. Sometimes he gets a little carried away, but mostly this guy's got a great channel and I enjoy watching him. He goes by the channel name of NY Prepper. Now, let me preface all this by saying that um, if you have not prepared yourself, excuse me, um, for anything, whether it's a hurricane or fire or doomsday, I mean, pick whatever it is you want. If you have not properly prepared for said emergency, and right now, I mean, we've got war on 4 or 5 fronts happening or could happen. The threat of nuclear war is as strong as I've seen it in a long, long time. A long, long time. So you need to be prepared in case something were to happen. Be prepared for at least, 2 to 4 days of not having power. You need to make sure that you have food, water, able to stay warm. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but whether you want to call it prepping or being prepared, that is smart. That's a good thing. Now, I'm not saying take every dime you've got and go out and buy, a pallet of water in case. But if you need to, you got to have water. That you got to have, or a pallet of MREs. I'm not saying that, but do it slowly, but do it steady, and shortly you will have prepared for things to happen. So anyway, let's I think he is live right now. And this is the NY Prepper. Let's see. I can hear him in the background. So we will be right here. And as he comes on, I'll leave it to him and let him do his show. And if things happen that I need to break in, I'll silence him and we'll bring our own show back on. So there he's changing the screen. And again, this is the
So we have 2 U.S. officials confirming that the U.S. has begun the start of a campaign that will likely be a series of larger scale strikes. Okay, so this is just the beginning, guys. This is literally just the beginning. Okay, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's over. This is it. This is all we're gonna do." They've said multiple times it's going to be weeks long. It's going to be days long. So what's going on, Joe? Russia has a defense pact with Iran. We don't know if they have a defense pact or not. It's possible. It's possible they did make some kind of an agreement, but we don't know if that's really an actual defense pact or what. Susie B, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Army George, I hope you're having a great Friday. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Cyborg, thank you for the donation. It looks like he's saying 3-phase hit Yemen, Syria, Iraq, IRGC, and Iran Navy. Iran assets in Iran, and then tactical nukes on Iranian nuclear plants. That could be possible. I mean, logically, that's the way they should do it. Eddie Holner, thank you for the donation. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So this is just the beginning. What's going on? Moon's Family Fishing, first time viewer from Rochester, New York. Thanks for tuning in. So this is just the beginning, guys. So we have to make sure we stay on maximum alert the next, couple of days and weeks.
Now I'm going to leave his screen up, but I'm going to pause his audio. We have a story it's coming out of Yemen. This story's on both CNN .com as well as Reuters and the Associated Press. Apparently, Yemen's Houthi rebels have made it known that they welcome a conflict with the United States. Now, I have always been told, and I've always said actually that Yemen, parts of Yemen actually are quite beautiful, but for the most part, Yemen is a open hole in the earth. Um, its government is weak. They let this rebel group run ripshod. I mean, it's a shit box. Anyway, the story is that a giant poster featuring we'll read this article to you. Yemeni rebel leader Abdel Malek Al Houthi was hung on the ancient walls of Constantinople in Istanbul. Get that out. Just days after the Houthi organization was designated a terror group by the United States. Um, they were at one time, I believe, and under Trump, and they were taken off the list by Joe and the Ho. The text under the picture said, "We are all Yemenis," in Turkish. Once seen in the Middle East as a menacing Iranian proxy that wreaked havoc in the Arab world's poorest country by overthrowing the internationally recognized government and prompting a brutal Saudi-led military intervention. The Houthis' group fortunes have changed since Israel launched its devastating war on Gaza. Now, these folks, they're Shiite Muslim Houthis, also known as Ansar Allah. They're now seen in parts of the, mostly largely Sunni Muslim world as champions of the Palestinian cause. They defend the people of Gaza against Israel, always have, always will, and have even decided to take on the Jewish state superpower ally, us, in the fight. They seem to think that, hey, and again, these are the Houthi rebels are led by the family with the last name Al Houthi. There's one guy at the head of this, and they're rebels to the country. They fear no evil, but they're proud to take cash and weapons from their daddy, which is Iran. So they talk a big game, but they depend on daddy to keep their existence. As the article says, since mid-November, these Houthi rebels have been attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea. This is right after the October 7th attack by the Hamas on Israel. They've been attacking these commercial ships in the Red Sea and the Straits of Bab al-Mandab. The Red Sea is a vital waterway, I'm sure you know, that connects the Suez Canal, through which like 10 to 15, 20% of the world trade passes through. The Houthi rebels' activities have effectively closed this trade route to most container ships. Container ships coming, from the Far East, or actually not the Far East, but Western Asia, that make their way to either Africa and or Europe and or the United States, typically go through, the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, into the Mediterranean, blah, blah, blah. Well, when you start having, these little ass wipes that are firing off missiles at these container ships, people like the Maersk, that comes to mind. I mean, there's a ton of them. You see the container ships all the time. At least here on the coast, we do. They're going to think twice because they're losing money if they're getting their shits blown up. Well, you may recall that I think it was in December, some of them decided we will go. We're not going to go there. We're going to go around the Cape of Africa to get to Europe and or the United States. Had a sneeze. Excuse me. Ugh, feels better. Well, that added, costs because it takes extra time. Instead of going through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal into the Med, you've got to go all the way down to the Cape of Africa, South Africa, and come all the way back up the western side of Africa if you're going to Europe. So, it behooved a lot of countries to get this under control. Hence, you saw the United States, Britain, other countries that have navies kind of step up and move into the Red Sea, and say, you gotta back down. Now, the area of around, I believe it's Hadidaya on the far west coast of Yemen, in the Red Sea, the edge. They have not been able to keep that secure. Now, on the southern side of Yemen, where the Gulf of Aden is, they've been better. They've been better, and the ships have been able to go through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea, but it's still a problem. Excuse me. U.S. officials have told CNN that they believe the Iranian leadership is nervous about some of the actions of its proxy groups in the Middle East as fears of a direct confrontation with the United States escalate. Now, we have all seen and heard over the last several days Iran say, you lay a finger on our sovereign territory or any of our I forget the word they used, not proxies, but any of our assets, and we will respond, etc. Even though Joe Biden said, we're going to respond on our timetable, and you better not reply to our response, which is that is the most moronic, sophomoric thing a leader in the in the world entirely that would say, we're going to bomb you, but don't you respond. Don't you respond to us. Of course, Iran said, F you. Of course we will. But at the same time, and CNN makes a good point here, you got to think that the Iranian mullahs and those folks are looking at Yemen's Houthi rebels and guys, we need to let's work together on this kind of thing. I'm sure they're saying they don't want Iran. The last thing they want is the United States breaking all bad ass on them. That's the last thing they want. They can say, bring it, we don't care, but they still don't want that. We are showing ourselves as weak. There's no denying that. It's been that way for the last, since 2021, January. We have been weak. We are getting weaker. It's so obvious, and the world has taken notice. And you think about all those times that you heard Democrats specifically in Washington say, oh, the world is they're laughing at us. They're laughing. We have, the orange man in DC, and we have no respect. No, that is the furthest thing from the truth. And this is why you see today, of course, China doesn't want Trump as president. Of course, Putin doesn't want Trump as president. Of course, North Korea doesn't want Trump as president because he's not going to stand. He's not going to put up with any of their crap. He's not going to do it. Totally get it. And when you hear someone like Trump say, you know, Putin is intelligent, Xi Jinping intelligent, little fat man in North Korea very intelligent, and so on. It's not that he's sucking up to them. You know, those Democrats and some Republicans that keep saying that, get over yourselves. That's not what he's saying. What he is saying is they are intelligent. They may have a different way of life, but they're intelligent. They're not idiots. Keep your enemies close, or keep your friends close. Keep your enemies closer. And that's pretty much what he does. U.S. intelligence suggests that Iran is concerned that Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea could upset the economic interests in both China and India, which are key allies of Tehran. So it's not just Yemen involved. Yemen's actions also have a fallout and quite possibly against China and India, key allies. If their ships are getting shot at, or if their ships aren't able to make it through the passage and they've got to go around the Cape of Africa, that's costing them money. It's all about money. In everything, it's all about the money. There were signs this week that Iran is trying to rein in its proxies as Kataib Hezbollah, a militia in Iraq, said it was suspending operations against U.S. targets following a strike that killed 3 American military personnel in Jordan. So they killed 3 Americans, and all of a sudden, all right, we're going to suspend. But Iran appears to have less control over the Houthis, as well as the Yemeni rebel group continued to target ships. So Hezbollah, after the 3 Americans were killed, said we're over. We're done for now. The Houthis, meanwhile, said game on. This past Tuesday, 3 nights ago, a cruise missile launched by the Houthis into the Red Sea came within a mile of a destroyer, a U.S. destroyer, before it was shot down. The closest a Houthi attack has come to a U.S. warship. The episode underscored the threat of the rebels continue to pose to U.S. naval assets in the region and commercial shipping, despite multiple U.S. and British strikes on Houthi infrastructure inside Yemen. Early on Thursday, that would be yesterday, the United States carried out its latest round of airstrikes in Yemen against a Houthi drone ground control station in Yemen and taking out 10 Houthi drones. Let's check back in with our guy here, New York Prepper.
Definitely going to happen. Nobody knows. Okay, nobody knows. So, I mean, you could have your opinions, but be respectful. Ryan, Matthew, thanks, Greg, for all your info. We all appreciate it. No problem, Ryan. JP says this looks like it could be the destruction of Damascus. Yeah, it's very possible. Very possible. We're seeing a lot of strikes on Damascus, that's for sure. So, yeah, it's definitely possible.
We're no longer the border patrol, we're the welcome patrol. Once somebody gets to the wall, they're actually in the United States. Basically, once they hit the wall, all they have to do is say asylum. And now I have to take that individual into custody and I have to process again.
We're hearing 18 members of the IRGC were taken out. And like I've said many times before, the U.S. has already passed the resolution saying that this was passed by Congress. Okay, this has nothing to do with Biden. Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, passed a resolution stating that they will not allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. Okay. So, if this escalates, it's possible that the U.S. is just going to go all out and destroy Iran's nukes. We don't know if Iran has a defense pact with Russia or not. I highly doubt that they have one. I don't think Russia would go to nuclear war with the U.S. over Iran. Iran is not a Russian territory. Okay. Russia's nuclear doctrine specifically says that they can use nukes to defend their territory. It doesn't say we can use nukes to defend other countries or allies. Okay. It doesn't say that. Would they use nukes if we attacked Iran? I don't think so. I don't think Russia's too concerned about Iran. I think they would probably be upset about it. Maybe they would do something to retaliate, but I don't know if they would launch nukes at us because we attacked Iran. Iran is not a part of Russia. Okay. So, they may not decide to start a nuclear war over Iran. So, yeah, according to U.S. Central Command, it says that apparently 18 personnel were taken out, or there's various sources saying as many as 18 were taken out. We're hearing as many as 18 wounded and 10 killed in action. So we have riots going on in Argentina between the police and some people that are upset at economic reforms because the new president is trying to make Argentina more capitalist. So we have a lot of socialists that are not too happy with that. They hit some kind of a weapons warehouse as well. We also have breaking news that Carl Weathers passed away at the age of 76. It's pretty sad news. You guys might remember him from the Rocky movies and from Predator. He played Apollo Creed.
All right, we're gonna keep him up again. That's the NY Prepper, so you can see that behind me. But we'll get back with him. Some of the other news about the United States strikes. This is something that, and I'll read this from you. That this is the kind of stuff that is it's terrible, and I don't know who this person is, but obviously they've got the blue check on Twitter, so they're somebody. They've been approved and what have you. But when they say things like U.S. is officially, he said this 19 minutes ago, U.S. is officially at war with Iran. This is Patrick Bet David. No more proxy war. U.S. drops 125 bombs on 85 targets linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Devastating airstrikes on Iraq and Syria. Whatever happened to world peace under this administration? What I take exception with is the U.S. is officially at war with Iran. That is not true. That is unequivocally not true. The United States cannot declare war without it coming from Congress, and that has not happened. Now, the President of the United States does have unilateral authority to take military action against another body, political body, like a communist country, bad actor, whatever you want to call it. Executive orders also allow that. it doesn't allow the president of the United States to declare war, which has not been done. Some of the other things that we see, looking through some Iran items on X. Interesting. Someone out of Kyiv on X says Iran will now have to choose between rearming terrorist groups in the Middle East or rearming the terrorist state of Russia. A warehouse of Iranian weapons cooking off on the border of Syria, Iraq after U.S. strikes. That was one of the videos we showed you earlier. That as time is coming by, it does look like that can be confirmed that is a weapons cache. And this guy makes a good point. Iran, do you have the ability to rearm the Houthi rebels, or are you going to help rearm Russia? What are you going to do? Maybe they can do them both. Beats me. Or do they say, you know what, you Al Houthi and the boys, y'all need to tamp it down a little bit because I've got to send more over to Putin because he's, they got to be running out. That's why China and North Korea is getting involved. Lindsey Graham, South Carolina senator, U.S. senator, said today, quote, this is Lindsey Graham, quote, if you want a war with us, bring it on. We will blow you off the map. I'm not worried about losing a war with Iran. They should be worried about losing a war with us. There you go. Little lapdog Flimsy Lindsay, trying to get, a little tough guy going on with Iran. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy said much earlier today, he said, we know where these attacks are coming from, Iran and the terrorist groups it sponsors. Iran is able to financially support these terrorists because President Biden isn't enforcing sanctions against its oil. Interesting. We'll go back to some other world stories or world reporting of this story about those Houthi rebels. The Houthis, under the direction of Al Houthi, the family, have taken control of most of northern Yemen, including the capital of Sana'a. They present themselves as the legitimate rulers of the country. The rebel group has framed its and make it clear they are not the rulers of Yemen. Yemen has I believe it's the prime minister. They have a government. It's very weak. They have no stones. They let the Houthi rebels do it as they please. The rebel group has framed its operations in the Red Sea as being conducted by the Yemeni Armed Forces. That's what they are calling themselves. We are the Yemeni Armed Forces. That narrative has taken hold among those who oppose the Gaza war the world over. The internationally recognized movement or government, meanwhile, sits some 230 miles away in the southern city of Aden. That's where the real Yemeni government, they're not even in the capital. They're in the city of Aden. And when CNN says you're seen as weak, you are really weak. Really weak. Since the Houthi rebels have been underway with their attacks, they've been condemned by not only the United States, but also the European Union, NATO, and 44 other allied countries. in a joint statement, called the Houthi-led seizure of one of the cargo ships on November 19, 2023. Even they called it in mass, 44 countries, then NATO, and then the European Union. They called it appalling. A month later, the U.S. foreign multinational coalition meant to safeguard commerce in the Red Sea. The U.S. and the United Kingdom have since then been conducting airstrikes on the Houthis. It goes on to say that they show no signs of backing down. I fully expect, I'm not going to bet money on it, but I fully expect that there to be a cruise missile or 12 shoved right up the keister of the Houthi rebels in the town of Sana'a. But maybe not so much because that is the country's capital, but especially in Haydada. I would not be surprised if that town is relatively demolished. A senior Yemeni analyst at the International Crisis Group, ICG, Ahmed Naji, said locally their popularity has increased in some areas, oddly enough. This ICG is a Brussels think tank group. He added in his comments that the resentment remains with what is perceived as the sidelining of Yemen's domestic issues. For some Yemenis, the Houthis' attacks have also rekindled memories of the group's own violence at home amid the near decade-long civil war. They've been fighting their own countrymen. They think they are the country's armed forces. Let's just go on and take on one of the world's superpowers in the United States. They're not the brightest bulb in the lamp. Yemen's civil war began in 2014. So they've been fighting a civil war for 10 years, let's call it, when Houthi forces stormed the capital of Sana'a and toppled the internationally recognized Saudi-backed government. That's when they left and went to the town of Aden. The conflict spiraled into a wider war in 2015 when a Saudi-led coalition intervened in an attempt to expel the Houthis. The attempt failed, leaving the country in ruins. Iran increased its support for the Houthis during the war as its proxy conflict with Saudi Arabia escalated. Now, why is all this happening? It's the same reason other Arab Spring wars, fights, battles, whatever you want to call it. Let me find my notes here. It happens because you have Saudi-backed Muslims and their sect, SECT, which are Sunni, and you have Iranian-backed Muslims, which are Shia. The Shia believe in Sharia law, rather. The Sunnis, the Saudi Arabians, they don't go that way. You look at the countries in that part of the world that have zero tolerance for women. Women have zero rights. Women aren't allowed outside of the house without their husband with them. All of those countries, Afghanistan, Iran, Yemen, there are others. They all believe in Sharia law. That is the law that they Whether you want it or not, that's what they believe everyone should live under, Sharia law. They're trying to force it down the throats of people in England, you know? Then you have Sunni Muslims don't have that same, are women's rights under attack in Saudi Arabia? Absolutely, in my opinion. Are they under attack, in Syria? Absolutely, in my opinion. In Jordan, not so much. But there's still a problem. But there is a large difference between the Sunni and the Sharia. We saw that in the Iraq wars. There was a difference. And that's what this civil war is about. After 8 years of war, a ceasefire between the Houthis and the Saudi-led coalition was signed in April of 2022. It lasted for 6 months. But while it did lapse since then, the parties that were warring, if you will, have not returned to full-scale conflict. And the pause has largely held with minor skirmishes and breakouts. Reportedly, there is no military or political rival that can challenge the Houthis domestically inside Yemen, but their rule in Yemen has been repressive and economically inefficient. Today, more than 24 million people in Yemen, that's over 80% of the population, are in need of humanitarian aid and protection. That, according to the United Nations. And oddly enough, when you look at all of the other countries that were in that Sharia law type of mentality, they have needs of humanitarian aid. I don't know. Is there a similarity there? Is there, you know what I'm saying? The conflict has also left the country's infrastructure in tatters, exacerbated economic collapse, and led to widespread displacement all over Yemen. Asked in an interview with BBC Arabia why the rebel group is reacting to a foreign conflict amid Yemen's own domestic troubles. In other words, why are you seeking a large fight when you've got your own problems right here at home? A top Houthi official countered that Western countries are doing the same by supporting Israel. You can't fix stupid. This has been going on for millennia. It ain't going to stop now. During Yemen's civil war, the Houthis would blame the country's problems on the conflict, both internally and internationally. The leader of the Houthi rebels is Mohammed Ali al-Houthi. Now, he has been recorded as denying that his group is seeking popularity with the, by making these Red Sea strikes. And this is reported by CNN. And he told BBC Arabia that the campaign, in other words, they're shooting missiles over into the Red Sea on container ships. It comes from a standpoint of duty to faith and to Islam. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Let's go back to NY Prepper and hear from him.
Usually update my members first before, the regular channel. So you do get some early access to things if you're a member. And also on Patreon, I do the same thing. I post everything before I post to YouTube on Patreon. And I also I also communicate with people directly on Patreon as well. Lately, I've been bad with that because the news has been so busy. I haven't had a chance to check all my messages on Patreon, but normally I respond same day or next day to people that send me messages on Patreon. I've met a lot of nice people through there, so thank you to all the Patreon members. I appreciate you guys. Um, I was floating around the idea of migrating what I do on Patreon to my website. This way I have total control and I can bypass any of the rules that Patreon has. I'm still considering doing that. It's been so busy with the news lately. I haven't had a chance to look into the logistics of that, but I'm gonna check into it again, and maybe this year I'm just gonna switch over from Patreon to my website at some point. I just have to look at the pros and cons and see, if it's worth it to do that.
All right, we'll break into him since he's doing some of his own stuff. I do want to bring up let's share. Make sure this comes up. Share the screen here. Interesting. President Biden. Yeah. Just when was it? 5:45, so like 2 hours 15 minutes ago. Put on Twitter. Well, we know he didn't do it because Corn Pop is asleep by now. Today, at my direction, U.S. military forces struck targets in Iraq and Syria that the IRGC and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. We did not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world. That's standard politispeak. But to all those who seek to do us harm, we will respond with don't. That was President Biden on X a little bit ago. Let's also take a look-see. Bear with me while I pull this up. I did hear earlier from news sources that I believe that actually came from Fox News that no U.S. Navy assets or personnel were involved in today's or tonight's attacks. It was strictly Air Force. Strictly Air Force. Let's see. I want to bring up. Let's go ahead and bring this page up off of Twitter. I found this interesting. In a tweet, I don't know how you pronounce that. Araya, possibly. Summary: what happened in the last 3 hours or so? U.S. initiated its retaliation operation in Syria, Iraq, by targeting in what it claims to 85 targets with 125 precision ammunition using B-1 bombers. CENTCOM claims targeting IRGC and resistance facilities. I agree with that. You see the little flag beside his or her whatever name, so that gives me pause. They do have a blue check, so they at least are legitimate. Anyway, next bullet point. Jordanian Air Force planes help U.S. in bombing targets in Syria in solidarity. Okay, cool. U.S. aggression allowed ISIS terrorists to attack Iraqi armed forces. I have not heard that anywhere. The U.S. aggression caused for Syrian and Iraqi deaths and injury, both civilian and soldiers. I'm sure that is correct. Collateral damage happens every time you fire the weapon. Iraqi resistance targeted the U.S. base in Conoco, Syria, causing for a fire outbreak inside the base simultaneously with U.S. aggression. That's probably true. That is a base that guards some oil fields. Washington's White House stated numerous times that it does not intend to target inside Iran and does not seek war with Iran. I don't believe I've ever heard anybody say it does not intend to target inside Iran. I certainly hope no one has said that. So I think that's a misstatement there. According to Al Mayadeen sources, the sites targeted by the United States in Syria and Iraq were completely empty and had been evacuated before the aggression. I don't know that that is true or not, but I would agree more than likely because we certainly gave them days upon days of notice. White House claims having informed the Iraqi government on strikes. Sure, they did. Iranian source told Al Jazeera that CENTCOM claims regarding targeting IRGC bases in Syria are false, since Iran has no bases in those regions where the U.S. bombed. If that's true, that Iranian source told Al Jazeera that, then they said it because they don't know what in the hell they're talking about. And finally, in the Red Sea, according to Ambrey, a cargo ship was targeted and 2 explosions occurred. That is relatively new, so I have no opinion on that. I have not heard anything about that. One of the responses, and kind of been saying this to that from Mr. Uwe, when we go to war, we don't talk for a week about what we're going to do. The United States set off fireworks for their opinion. The saddest thing about this evening is Syrian participation in this farce, or Jordanian. I can't wait for the honorable people, heirs of the Nabateans, to regain their sovereignty. Well, isn't that special? Let's go back over here and see what's happening. We're coming up on 3 hours and 33 minutes of live stream. 4 hours is when YouTube starts getting a little antsy. So we may take a break, and if more things happen, we will come back. Be sure to like or subscribe rather to the channel here at Beaufort County's House of Cards. Like and subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when we go live, and that way you can click right over and join us. We do like to hear from folks. We typically, for those of you who may not be aware of the channel, we typically are a Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter podcast. But because of these world events, we have decided to take the show on the road, and this is only a YouTube event while America is striking back at Iran and their proxies. Let's see. Let's tune in to New York Prep or NY Prepper here.
So this is just the beginning, guys. I think this is going to escalate because what's going to happen now is these proxies, they're not going to stop. Okay, they're gonna launch more strikes, and the U.S. is gonna have to escalate, and it's just gonna keep escalating and escalating and escalating until the U.S. Has to just attack Iran directly. You know, they're just gonna say, you know what, let's just go after Iran. I think that's what's gonna happen. You know. Vanessa Dubois, thank you for gifting 10 members.
For the ones searching for the products you need, Grainger.com is always there for you. Find
support. I really appreciate all your support. Black Cad, thank you for the donation. Satan Nukes is in Iran from Russia. Interesting. I haven't heard anything about that, but that's very interesting. It's the first time I'm hearing that there's the Satan nukes in Iran. Tom R, thank you for the donation. You do this country a great service. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for the compliment. Although I will say, the people that are really doing this country a service are the men and women in uniform overseas right now on the front lines in these dangerous areas. I think they're doing more of a service than I am. But thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Poopy McScoopy, thank you for gifting 10 memberships.
Poopy mixed.
Again, thank you so much. I'm going to send out that thing you asked me to send you. If you could actually do me a favor, Poopy, if you could just reply to the original email I think you sent me,
I couldn't
so
keep
it bumps it up to the top of my inbox, because I forgot your email address, because I didn't write down where to send that to. So
Mr. Poopy McScoopy.
if you could do that, I would appreciate it. David Wilder, thank you for the donation. Thank you for your coverage, Greg. I'm new to this channel. What is a doomsday plane and what does it do? Okay, so the doomsday plane is also known as the Night Watch, the E-4B Night Watch. It's made by Boeing. The model number is E-4B, and the nickname is Night Watch. And we have a few of them. Their primary job is to function as an airborne command post during a nuclear war or any kind of catastrophic event where the president needs to be evacuated and put into a safe place where he can command the U.S. military. We do have a lot of bunkers across the United States. However, a lot of our enemies know where the bunkers are, and being on land puts the president at risk of being hit by missiles or even, invasion forces. So in the event of whatever the situation is, nuclear war, foreign invasion, alien invasion, pick your scenario, they take the president, they put him on this plane, and the plane just stays airborne over the U.S. indefinitely, forever. Basically, it's designed to basically be like a flying base. Okay, think of it as like a flying base, and the president can command the entire U.S. military, including our nuclear forces, from the air. He can issue launch orders. He can all his chiefs of staff will be with him on that plane. Okay, and this plane is hardened to resist EMPs. It's EMP proof. It also has various classified countermeasures installed on it. So if, let's say, some enemy force tried to shoot it down with fighter jets or some other kind of, or cruise missiles, if they tried to shoot it out of the air with cruise missiles or whatever, it has various types of classified countermeasures to, either jam missiles, jam planes. I'm sure it probably has flares and chaff. And there could even be some active countermeasures like small machine guns built in. So if they have to shoot at a plane or something.
So let's pause this. Let's pause him a second. I'm gonna mute him, and let's talk about that for a second. Talk about. I know this guy, Greg, looks at this. He looks at flight radar, I believe it is. I tend to use the Skyglass app. They're both doing the same thing, just different ways of doing it. Personally, over the last month, I've been watching and paying attention to military only refuelers, the Strato refuelers, Strata Fortress, the C-17s and C-130s, the refuelers, all of those, though, and when there's a large amount of the UH-47s or Blackhawks, I'll make note of that. The P-8s, The Doomsday plane, the P-8 is a nuke sniffer. The Doomsday planes, which is a high altitude tactical control, government control plane, AWAC, all that kind of stuff. Pay attention to that and look at it. We've seen the sub sniffers around the entire Hawaiian Islands like crazy for the entire month. I've seen them on the North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and northern Florida coasts, almost on an every other day occurrence. The refuelers, KC-135s, the 40,000 foot gas station, they have been increasing in numbers and have been now over the last several days. Most of them have been headed to Europe and now elsewhere. If you have the chance to look at that type of software, that will give you a good sense of what's going on as what is about to come. Just by following and when you do that, just because I nobody told me this, so I'll tell you. But when you do that, if you can eliminate all of the trainers, and those are the big bulk of flights you see in Texas and Louisiana. That's where in the Panhandle. Those are trainer flights. They're small jets that they're training pilots to fly bigger boys. So you got to get rid of those off your screen, or it'll flood it. And then just pay attention to particular, decide what you want to look at and look for, and follow them. Put up a tracer so you see where they've been. Don't be surprised when you do it if you see, the pretty blue and purple and green tracer, and then the plane stop. The plane's gone. The tracer's there, and it's just a dead stop. It doesn't continue. The color doesn't go. That means they've turned their transponders off. They do that. They do that for different reasons. Some, if not all, we don't know. We can only speculate. But pay attention to that. And it's good stuff. It's good stuff keeping aware of what's going on. That is key. So we are at almost 20 minutes past the hour. We're going to take a little break here and get the evening go on. And if we start lighting up the sky over in Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, anywhere else, if we start lighting up the sky, we will be back on here. Be sure you have clicked subscribe and hit the little bell thing. That way you'll know when we come back on, and tell your friends about it and have them join us. This is new for us. We're normally on a podcast venue where we do our weekly show. Don't forget you can catch us on worldwide on bigpatriotradio.com. That is bigpatriotradio.com. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all over the world. All right. So keep a check on us. We'll be back when things start popping off. And until then, always watch your six.